1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, and welcome to the program. It is the 15th of February. We're not even a month into the presidency of Donald J. Trump. Good God. I woke up this morning, and I actually had to lie there for a little bit and think, now, what happened yesterday? I know Flynn is out, but didn't something else happen? Unbelievable. So, where do we start? You guys. Hey, I gotta tell you, I was thinking about this last night and actually prevented me from sleeping. I'm not gonna be here next week. I am taking a vacation. I am going to see my mom and my sister Susan, who are ensconced under palm trees in the desert. That's where I'm heading. Also, upon my return, I will not be coming back to this studio. We're going to have a different studio in a different location. So here's what's going to happen. I don't think I'm back on after Friday until March 1. Now, that's like a 10-day period. And I wonder if when I come back, anything could happen. What the hell? Who? Huh? What? Huh? I have a knack in my career of being on vacation when huge things happen. So I just got to say the coincidence of the turmoil and tumult in D.C. and my heading to the palm trees it suggests that something really big might happen. I certainly hope not. And obviously, I'll tell you more about our new digs soon. And as soon as I see them, which is tomorrow, it's going to be better. That's all I have to say. It's going to be better. So, the good news is we have found a new home, better equipment, all that kind of stuff. And the bad news is after this Friday show, this show and two more, I'm not on again until March 1. Okay? I just had to say that. All right, now. Fascinating letter to the editor today in response to the fascinating letter to the editor yesterday that I read to you, both in the New York Times. The one yesterday was from a group of esteemed psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, saying despite the rule against professionals in the mental health field diagnosing people they haven't seen or speaking out without consulting and knowing the client, patient, whatever, it's not kosher. By the way, that rule comes from the threatened presidency of another Republican. It's called the Goldwater rule because people at the time thought Goldwater was off his rocker. I'd kill for Goldwater now. So that's where it came from. So we get this letter yesterday saying from all these eminent, we cannot be silent any longer. The guy in the Oval Office is frigging nuts, and this nation is in peril. So today comes another letter, New York Times, suggesting that that is fevered, and I'll just read it. Just so you know, the guy is a professor emeritus of psychiatry at Duke, okay? Alan Francis. Here's what he says. It's interesting. Geez, these guys use such big words. Here, hang on. Diagnosticians have mislabeled President Trump with the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. My sister Susan misdiagnosed him then. We've all said he's a narcissist. He's got that narcissistic personality disorder. This emeritus shrink says, I wrote the criteria that define narcissistic personality disorder. And Trump doesn't meet them. Listen up. He may be a world-class narcissist, but this doesn't make him mentally ill because he does not suffer from the distress and impairment required to diagnose mental illness. In other words, he's perfectly fine with who he is. This guy goes on. He wrote the thing. He says he doesn't fit the criterion, and I wrote the criterion. However, Trump causes severe distress. He causes severe distress rather than experiencing severe distress himself. And he has been richly rewarded rather than punished for his behavior. He's been richly rewarded for his grandiosity, for his self-absorption, for his lack of empathy. It got him to the presidency. It is listen to this. So this guy wrote the book, and he says this. It is a stigmatizing insult to the mentally ill who are mostly well-behaved and well-meaning to be lumped with Donald Trump, who is neither. So this shrink says, no, Trump is not mentally ill. He's a son of a bitch. And you are maligning mentally ill people when you put Trump up as an indicator of this is a mentally ill person. No, he's not. The shrink says most mentally ill people are lovely people. They suffer. Trump inflicts suffering. He doesn't suffer. Okay, the emeritus shrink goes on. Bad behavior is rarely a sign of mental illness. And the mentally ill behave badly only rarely. Psychiatric name-calling is a misguided way of countering Mr. Trump's attack on democracy. He can and should be appropriately denounced for his ignorance, his incompetence, his impulsivity, and his pursuit of dictatorial powers. His psychological motivations are too obvious to be interesting. Listen to that. Here's a shrink saying, I wouldn't even want to listen to why he's too obvious to even be interesting. He's like a child. He just needs attention. And he concludes thusly, and analyzing his psychological motivations is not going to halt his headlong grab for power. The antidote to a dystopic Trumpian dark age is political, not psychological. Great letter, I think. This guy's saying, stop the name calling. First of all, it impugns the mentally ill, who I know and I love, and they're good people. This guy's a bad guy. And he's not mentally ill. He's just a bad, bad, narcissistic ass. And throwing psychological labels at him doesn't do anything. The only way to deal with him is politically. If you want to get him out. I thought, great letter today. Alan Francis, writer, professor emeritus of psychiatry at Duke University Medical College, and was chair of the task force that wrote the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. That's the Bible. That's the one. He wrote it. So, I just wanted to start with that. So where are we? Here's what we know. Flynn would still be in the White House today, enjoying the power of his office, enjoying his proximity to the President of the United States. He'd still be there. Trump knew everything that we now know weeks ago. Didn't bother him. The only reason Flynn's gone is that he was outed by the Washington Post, and then we knew. As soon as we, the people, found out, then Trump said, he's got to go. He was quite willing to let Flynn in with the knowledge that he had lied, supposedly. I don't know, because the phone call could well have been Trump told him, hey, get on the phone and reassure the Russians that, don't worry, we'll take care of the sanctions, okay? Tell them not to overreact. What did the president know, and when did he know it? The likelihood of Flynn doing that on his own, not great. Not great. I have little doubt that Trump and Flynn told Trump maybe we should tell the Russians, and that Trump would have had to sign off on that. Here's why. Flynn is a lot of things, but one thing he is military. And he has a respect for, perhaps, the chain of command. And at that level, I don't think you go phoning ambassadors from Russia telling him what the administration will do without the go-ahead from your boss, the president. Who, by the way, was not yet inaugurated, so he was a private citizen at that point too, and would consequently be potentially, if we are able to prove that Trump gave the go-ahead, he would be subject to prosecution for a federal crime under the Logan Act, which prevents citizens from conducting foreign policy. Okay? So we know a little bit, but there's a lot of questions we need to know. the answers to. Number one is what I just said. Did Trump or Bannon or anybody else in the White House sign off on Flynn making contact with the Russians and calming them down and reassuring them? Another question. Why didn't Trump speak out about Flynn, knowing for 2 weeks what he had done? Why didn't he? Knowing why was he perfectly willing to let Flynn stay, knowing that he had been compromised, and according to the acting attorney general, the head of the CIA, the head of the FBI, and NSA, that in fact Flynn, his national security advisor, was compromised and potentially a victim of Russian blackmail. No problem, says Donald Trump. He can stay. It's only when you found out that he had to go. The other thing that is just mind-blowing to me is the silence of the Republicans still. And not just silence. I did it again last night. I watched Fox News. It's amazing. It's amazing. You want a different universe? They'll give you a different universe. So what they come away with this, and you hear some of the members of Congress saying the same thing. Well, obviously this guy was a, loose cannon, and now he's out, so that's good. There's nothing for us to look into here. Just keep moving. If we're going to look into anything, I want to know where those leaks are coming from. So Republicans, given the same information that we have, their response is, let's go after the leaker, the messenger. Let's get who's leaking our nefarious activities? Not, you mean our White House, our president, could have been colluding with the Russians that we know tried to influence our election and were probably pretty successful. The same Russians who were trying to get Donald Trump elected because they wanted him. Because why? Because they got stuff on him. You want to know who's subject to blackmail? We know who's subject to blackmail by the Russians. The President of the United States. Now, the problem will be connecting dots. And with the Republicans in a stranglehold of the Congress and its ability to do investigations, it won't be easy until more Republicans peel away. More Republicans say what I believe I heard on the radio when I was coming in. I believe Lindsey Graham has now said that if in fact we find out that Trump officials, campaign officials, as the New York Times reports today, had been in touch with Russian intelligence officials for months, from the last summer on, and this was found out. Well, if that is true, then Graham says we need to get to the bottom of this, and we need a bipartisan, independent investigation, not a whitewash. A bipartisan, independent investigation. Now, I got to tell you, when bipartisan, independent investigations get going, stuff happens. That's what led to Clinton's impeachment, right? A special investigation, which led to a semen-stained blue dress and impeachment. Richard Nixon's downfall, same thing. I have little doubt that if there was a bipartisan independent, Trump would be gone too. But we need more than Lindsey Graham. We need Republicans to stand up. The Republicans around these parts, nope, they're covering up for the collusion of the Russians and their nominee. And now our president. It's traitorous. Rothfuss, it's traitorous. Murphy, it's traitorous. Toomey, it's traitorous. Do you see what Jason Shavitz, whatever the heck that little jerk's name is, the one who went after Clinton incessantly? He heads the House Oversight Committee. You see what he said about this? Oh, he was so concerned about her emails and Benghazi. But when it comes to Russians interfering in our election, here's what he says. Quote, I think the situation has taken care of itself. Okay. All right, keep moving. And then another one of these Republican traitors, Devin Nunes, who's chair of the House Intelligence Committee, God help us, said, I don't know, seems like there's a lot of nothing here. No one could look. This is why when you look at anything of people who have served in White Houses from both sides of the aisle, looking at this White House, the same word keeps coming up over and over again. It's the same word we used all for the last year. Unprecedented. 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 And the head of the House Intelligence Committee says, it just seems like there's a lot of nothing here. Unprecedented. And this from Senator Rand Paul. It makes no sense for Republicans to investigate Republicans. Tell that to the Republicans in the Congress when Richard Nixon was the president. They went where the facts took them. Listen to this. I got out of a long article about Flynn's departure. Listen to this. So upon learning that the National Security Advisor to the President had, even before he was sworn in, they had not even taken office yet, was on the phone to the Russian ambassador saying, don't worry, we'll take care of this stuff, these sanctions, don't worry. Okay? The same day that is learned, you know what Republicans were doing? I will read. It's just a sentence. It's just one sentence. Leading Republicans in the House spent their weekly news conference wishing their spouses a happy Valentine's Day, one by one, from the microphone. Oh, yes, and a few of them talked about dismantling the Affordable Care Act. Yeah. Yeah. So Steve is saying, so the New York Times, their lead today is the news that according to a number of intelligence officials, a number of Trump's campaign advisors and in one case his manager at the time, Manafort, was in repeated contact with Russian intelligence during the campaign. Steve writes, after reading that article, I'm convinced that this will take him down. I agree. I think eventually he's going to be taken down. The astonishing thing is the speed with which this is happening. As I said, we're not even 4 weeks in. Well, are we going to... Oh, God. We're 1/12, not even 1/12 of the first year of a 4-year term in. There's no way. There's no way. And did you see, so talk of investigation, so the Attorney General, that would be Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, the Attorney General, who was, recall, the first senator to jump on board with Trump's presidential aspirations when no one else would touch him. He was there because he understood what Trump was bringing with him. He is refusing, if there is an investigation that is conducted out of the Department of Justice, that he will not recuse himself from leading it. Now, again, the Justice Department's own ethical guidelines, the department he heads, you could imagine how many pages in there, the book that's given to new employees. Wow. Their own guidelines says that if you have a personal history with the target of an investigation, then you have to disqualify yourself. He's refusing. Meanwhile, back in the bigger world, you saw that the Russians have deployed a missile that is against a treaty they signed, my God, in the 80s, when Reagan did. You got North Korea shooting missiles. Do you know what? Think of the phallic aspect of this, guys. Since so much of this is alpha males, insecure alpha males behaving badly and taking the rest of us with them, right? So think of all this. Okay, so Trump gets in office, and right away the other ludicrous alpha males have to start sending their rockets up and saying, and what you gonna do about that, you orange-haired wonder? Huh? What you gonna do about that? This is geopolitics. A bunch of little boys. Beyond belief. Oh yeah, here, your Senator, Pat Toomey. Here's what he wanted to know here's his reaction to this news. He wants to know, how did the intelligence community come upon this information in the first place? Instead of going after possible collusion between the White House and the Russians, he wants to know how our intelligence community found out about it. He wanted to know, you mean they were doing intelligence gathering? We got to get to the bottom of that. Where did those leaks come from, says Toomey. Who made these leaks? And you know where the intelligence came from? This is what's so absurd. It came from They got to know this. They voted for it. Routine wiretapping of diplomatic phone calls. Oh, shock. Oh, yes. How dare the intelligence community be doing their job when it comes to gathering information that might make the Republicans look like traitors. Oy. So, let's drop away from this for a second, okay? I can't take it. There is another danger afoot. And since I'm flying, obviously, in the near future, I hope this gets taken care of. This has to do with Han Solo, Harrison Ford. You know he's a pilot. He famously flies his plane all over the place, and he famously crashes it a lot, too. I think my recollection, he was crashed on a golf course not too long ago, broke a bone or two, crashed, I'm thinking 2 or 3 crashes. Well, guess what? The FAA is investigating a landing that he made at the Orange County Airport. That's the John Wayne Airport, for those of you who've never flown in there. I have. So Harrison Ford's putting down at John Wayne, I guess yesterday or the day before. And he's cleared for a runway. And so in he comes, but he doesn't land on the runway. He lands on the taxiway. Guess what's on the taxiway? Yeah. A 737. 100% loaded with fuel and 116 people on board. They're waiting to take off. His plane comes swooping in right over them, and thank God, lands. Ford reportedly said, as he's landing, to the air traffic controllers, "Hey guys, was that airliner meant to be underneath me?" Okay, so after this gets investigated, our Han Solo could have flown his last flight because he could have his license revoked or maybe something lesser. The former National Transportation Safety Board chair said, "This is extraordinarily dangerous. It could have created a real disaster." And the NTSB former chair also said any experienced pilot should be able to know the difference between a runway and a taxiway. So there you have it. Harrison Ford. Oh, here, they actually have all his accidents. Several crashes. He was seriously injured in 2015 when that was the one on the golf course. He had several broken bones and required surgery. Also, he crashed a helicopter in 1999 and also crashed a 6-seat plane in Nebraska in 2000. However, he's done some nice things with his piloting. He made headlines also in 2000 for rescuing a mountain climber in Jackson, Wyoming, and for a year later rescuing a missing Boy Scout. So, can you imagine you're a missing Boy Scout and Han Solo comes in and rescues you? That'd be heady stuff. So anyway, I just wanted... God, is that ever fun talking about something other than Trump? Oh, I'll do my best to find these things because we just can't. Henri writes, Lynn, when you return from your long break, President Pence will have just addressed the nation. That's what is possible. But then it's also possible he'll get taken down, right? He'll get taken down because these investigations will keep on coming and he'll have been tainted. He will have been tainted as well. So let's say, this occurred to me last night and I got sick. Okay, we take Trump down because he's a clear and present danger to the world. Then we get Pence. Let's say he then goes down as well, sort of collateral damage in the whole swamp that is now the cesspool. Forget the swamp. The cesspool that is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. If Pence goes down, you know who we got? How does that go? Oh, yeah. Speaker of the House of Representatives. So you get the spineless, characterless, Ayn Rand-loving, Dracula-looking son of a bitch, Paul Ryan. Oh. I'll tell you, the only way out of this, as the shrink said, is political. And the only way out is for Democrats to start electing people. What are Democrats good for? What did they do? And this is a huge failure of the Obama 8 years. Under Obama, the Democratic Party lost over 1,000 legislative seats, governorships, senators, houses of representatives, congressmen. Houses of representatives. Yeah. I'm sorry. I love him dearly. But that was a big fail of his presidency. Because the president is also the head of his party. And he was never into that. He was never into the nitty-gritty. He had nothing to do with it. And it's got us in big trouble. Okay. Back to Henri. When you return from your long break, President Pence will just address the nation stating that our long national nightmare is over. If the next 2 weeks are anything like the last 2 weeks, do you really think that my prediction is all that off base? No. That's why I'm saying, Henri, damn it, I'm leaving just as things are, potentially going to blow up. I don't know. Henry writes, seriously, though, how do you get a bipartisan, independent investigation when the Republicans hold all three branches of government? I don't know. The courts, again. They don't quite hold all the... They got a 5-4... No, it's 4-4 on the Supreme Court right now. All right? And we got a lot of reasonable judges in the federal judiciary underneath the Supreme Court. We got two things. I've said this over and over. We got two things on our side. That's all we got. They're so far they're doing pretty good, and they seem to be doing better. And that is the Fourth Estate, journalism, and the First Amendment. And the second one is the judiciary. Those, of course, are the two things that Trump is targeting, trying to undermine, right? Right? Every other tweet is about the courts, so-called judges, blah, 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 political courts, and the lying media, right? He knows those are the only two things that can take him down. Henry writes, during Nixon's impeachment, both chambers had a Democratic majority. During Clinton's impeachment, both chambers had a Republican majority. We got nothing. Here's also what we got. We got the people. And the people in the streets, and the people making the calls, and the people jumping on all these senators and congressmen. Here, the House, members of the House, the what's his name, the Rothfuss and what's that? The guy who looks like he's a corpse. Oh, Murphy. Looks like a bad funeral job. I mean, it's just he just looks like, somebody pasted like, too white stuff on him. He just looks, he does. Every time I look at him, I feel like it's like a walking corpse. All right. That was neither here nor there. I lost track. Oh, yeah. Forget it. The House will not do the right thing. You know why? They don't have to. You know why? Again, because of the failure of the Democratic Party to secure state legislatures. State legislatures controlled by the Republicans, who then gerrymandered everything into absolutely safe seats for their kind. To take the House will take, I can't imagine. We can't. And you can't expect them to do the right thing because they aren't subject to the angry voters, because their voters voted for Trump. They like him, okay? Senators are different. The Senate is very close. The Republicans don't have a very big majority in the Senate. So senators, and because they represent an entire state, not a jerry-rigged, gerrymandered little congressional district, they are much more susceptible to public pressure. So that is the other part of the recipe. The media, the courts, and we, the people, putting pressure on. Right? So, I know it's not like me, but I remain optimistic in a way that the magnificent, maddening structure of our government, which was designed for things to be very difficult to get done. It was designed. That's why all the checks and balances are. It's almost impossible to get anything done. It could, though, in this regard, save us. This is coming in from someone's mobile. Lynn, where is Joe McCarthy when we need him? Joe McCarthy? I was a small child during McCarthy's brief reign, but I still remember feeling scared. Yeah. I'm an old lady now, but I feel scared when I face the news. It's awful feeling scared. Yeah. And serious question, she said. Do you think... Oh, I didn't get all your... I still remember feeling scared when my family talked about it. And I'm scared now. Do you think that we'll ever get this shit under control? Old lady saying shit? God, as things have changed. For that matter, I'm an old lady and I say worse. Do you think that any Republicans will rise to the occasion and save us? I'd like your opinion. Okay, well, here. I think, as I'm saying, I think our hope is on senators, Republican senators, who are susceptible to pressure and who may, in fact, like a Susan Collins, have somewhere an understanding that this is beyond the pale and that they must put country over party. I think if journalists keep doing their job, and you know what now? I got to tell you, we've lived through this kind of thing before. Well, some of us have. And when it starts unraveling, when you start getting information, it just keeps coming. I'm telling you, it keeps coming. So if this is a house of cards, it is wobbling right now. One card got pulled. Well, a little unsteady, a little unstable. And you got more people now hunting this. You think we don't have people in the intelligence community that are working overtime on this? People are scared. Did you see what some general said, that he felt like the nation? He said, hey, something like, get your act together. We are at war. And I thought, we're at war? Oh, yeah, we are. We have soldiers in Afghanistan. We've got soldiers in Iraq. We are a nation at war, and we've got no apparatus. We've got no national security apparatus that is functional, and we have an intelligence community that fears that the Russians have bugged or have moles in the White House. So they won't even give the White House certain information. They don't think it's secure. If that's not a national security issue, I'd like to know what is. Which brings us to another great letter in the New York Times today from Don Krupp. Unfortunate name, Mr. Krupp, of West Lynn, Oregon. He says this: ask yourself, do you feel safer today than you did 4 weeks ago? Any American, whether you voted for Trump or not, how could you answer that question with, yes, I feel safer, when you see the level of chaos? Mr. Krupp says, there is nothing about the perpetual debacle of this presidential transition that affords me the confidence that Mr. Trump has a clue as to how to ensure the safety and security of the people of this nation. Indeed, I suspect that those who would do us harm are delighted by what they've seen to date. Yep. In regard to Trump voters, I saw an interesting piece about Iowa. Iowa went big for Trump, right? A reputable poll taken there a day ago shows most Iowans, and it was a pretty sizable thing, absolutely thinking that he's a disaster. So Iowa, a state like that, where people voted for Trump for all kinds of reasons, because Iowa used to be a sort of blue place. It did. And now, so, yeah, it could be, it'll take a while. And if Fox News has its way, it'll take longer to get a vast majority of Americans understanding the position that we are in, which is that our very national security is in fact at risk, and that we are pretty much a rudderless ship with a captain who is disinterested. Boy, by the way, was the captain tweeting up a storm this morning. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And by the way, speaking of the captain, you know what he's doing right now? He's meeting with Bibi Netanyahu of Israel, another alpha male who thinks he can play Trump, and who probably can. Jack says, Lynn, I suggest we all call or email Toomey and demand a bipartisan, independent investigative body with subpoena powers to investigate Russian involvement in our election, White House, and Trump administration. I have now for 2 days, and I will continue. You want Toomey's phone number? I shall give it to you. 202 224 4254. 202 224 4254. Eventually, even if they pretend they're not noticing or it doesn't have an impact, I got news for you. It has an impact. Eventually. If Toomey, again, because of the dereliction of the Democratic Party, and the local yokels, the state Democratic Party, if the Democrats had done their job and knocked Toomey off in November, which they should have and could have, Toomey has 6 years. He's looking at 6 years ahead of him. It's not easy to scare a guy who just got reelected to the Senate. He's got a 6-year term. He's clear. The senators who are more susceptible are obviously ones who are coming up for reelection. And in fact, that's Casey. I don't know. I just don't know. By the way, I'm starting to see these things. John Fetterman, I have to pass this on, who, you'll recall, with Toomey, there were two serious candidates that the Democrats could choose from to run against Toomey. And they were, what's-her-name, who will go down in the dustbin of losers of history, Katie McGinty. They were Katie McGinty and Joe Sestak. Every Democrat in a position of power went with her. When Joe Sestak was a former congressman, independent thinker, hard worker, little screwy, but obviously the right politics. McGinty, she's one of those establishment Democrats that make you think, what's the difference between that and a Republican? She oversees, she was a regulator in government, and then she takes a job with the very industry she's regulating. She's a weak candidate, a lousy debater. And the Democrats, this is what the Democratic Party did. They pulled out every stop they could to trip up Sestak. And they did. And they gave us McGinty. And she lost. Sestak would not have lost. Here's how they ensured she would get the nomination. And I have little doubt about this, and it involves John Fetterman, mayor of Braddock. Interesting guy, good guy in many ways. But I am led to believe that he was told, this is what I hear, by the party folks around here, that Congressman Mike Doyle might be hanging it up pretty soon. And wouldn't Fetterman like to go to Congress? And so would he get into this race, the primary race? Because the votes he'll peel away are Sestak votes. And that's exactly what happened. Fetterman jumps in to the primary and finishes off Sestak by peeling away votes, especially from around here, that would have gone to Joe Sestak. The fix was in. And Fetterman's been promised stuff. And now I'm noticing he's tweeting about 2020. Maybe taking on, I don't know. He clearly has big ambitions, as big as he is. And he did the bidding of the establishment Democrats. And all of these shenanigans cost us a Senate seat Think of how different it would be if Toomey wasn't in the Senate, but Joe Sestak was right now. Huh? And so, I look at John Fetterman, and as much as I want to like him for a lot of things, I think, you son of a bitch!
Yeah, I know.
Look what you did! What? You got people waiting?
Yep.
Like I'm going to shut up? Okay, let's get the people in here. Here's Joe. Hey, Joe.
How you doing?
I'm doing
Hey,
fine.
I have a little different thing on Trump. I want to see him stay in there just long enough so the Democrats tighten up the Senate. Because if when Pence gets in there, I want to see him to be a lame duck. I
Well-
want to see that. You know what I mean? I don't want him to get in there sooner, and then they go through that agenda of Paul Ryan's, because I think they're pretty close, Pence and Ryan, on the ideas.
Yeah. Listen,
That's my idea.
Pence will be a nightmare.
Yeah,
He would be a
worse,
nightmare.
but Trump's worse in another way, you know.
Right. Trump is, I mean, come on. I mean, do you have a dog? You have a dog, right?
2 dogs,
Okay, what are their names?
Vinny and Teddy.
All right. Well, I don't know about Vinny, but I think Teddy would make a better president than Donald Trump. That's all I'm saying. Seriously.
Yep.
So, I mean, in that regard, yeah, Pence is better. It just means that there's somebody who's not stark raving nuts and incompetent. Yeah,
Right.
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then.
Thank you, Joe.
Goodbye.
Bye. And we got Mary. Mary,
Hi, Lynn.
hello.
Hi. Hey, Lynn, you know, I have to say about President Obama, he was up against amazing, there are unbelievable hurdles that he got over. He accomplished so many amazing goals up against the everything was against him, and he
I
was
know.
still able to rise up. And
I know.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, you don't have to defend Obama to me. I love him. But
The thing
that
is,
doesn't mean that he was great in everything he did. And he had a huge failure in the sort of total disillusion of the Democratic Party while he was in the White House. I'm
he
sorry.
was also up against.
No.
The amount of
That's
prejudice.
no. Okay. So if it'll help you see this, I won't put it on Obama. I'll put it on the whole Democratic establishment. Like I just said, how they messed up, reelecting Toomey. I'm sick and tired of them. They're the professionals. They're the guys who hold office. They're like, and I know them and I like them. Rich Fitzgerald and Peduto, but they're wrong. They're part of this established Democratic Party who can't see beyond their own noses. So they actually think Katie McGinty is a better candidate than Joe Sestak? They were wrong. And they weren't sure, which is why they pulled Fetterman in.
But you know what, Lynn, too, we can't underestimate that the Republicans are going to change the rules and the laws to fit their needs. This is the game now.
Yeah, but it's the game because Democrats have failed.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's all I want to say. That's all I really, Mary. I don't even call myself a Democrat anymore. I do not.
Well,
it is a fucked up party.
Maybe this is the problem. We need to tighten up, take a look, do the whole overhaul thing, and get our shit together.
That's right. That is right. We got a lot more to do than we think.
We got a lot more to do, but
and you know what else?
Fighting amongst ourselves being weak is not it.
No, and it's going to take. It took a long time to get to this position of total weakness, of thinking that all we needed was to get the White House. That seemed to be our place, and now we don't even have that.
We're learning.
Now we don't even have that. Well, we've lost all. I mean, it is amazing if you really look at.
Devastating.
It is
devastating.
That is right. And you don't turn a party around like that We're talking decades of hard work to rebuild an opposition to the Republican Party.
And what's killing me is we've lost our rights. But I have to say that I believe the Russians have, that what they have over Trump is proof that he stole the election.
Yeah.
That's what
I have. Well, no doubt. They got something big on them. Hey, Mary, thank you. I got, what? I'm out of time.
You're headed to the Southwest on vacation, and I hope you find ways to restore, we all have to find ways to restore our souls. And, man, I wish you happy travels, sister.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate it.
I hope you, the sunshine is in nature. I hope you can plug into that. And
me too.
It's going to be a new day, babe. A new day.
Thank you, Mary. My best. Thank you.
Hang tight, sister.
Okay. Bye. Bye. I got to tell you, I went out. It was a beautiful day yesterday, right? And I'm walking around beautiful Pittsburgh, and I saw a totally in bloom forsythia. Is that what it's called? Yeah. The yellow ones? Yellow bush? Forsythia. Oh, man. Did that do my heart good? So the spring is right around the corner, and that might help lift our spirits a little. Okay, we're out of time, and I didn't get to tell you about these. So tomorrow, I got to tell you about this. This is not about Trump, and it's about what are called passenger drones, and they're going to be up in the air, maybe even this summer, where if you want to get somewhere, now granted, it's not in the United States, but you get into a little thing that'll fit one person. Once you're in it, you type in your destination, and the next thing you know, you're up in the air and zipping at 60 miles an hour over the roads, over traffic, and to your destination. This will be up and running in Dubai. I have to tell you more about it. We are heading into a world we cannot even imagine. Let's just try to keep it from being blown up before I get my first drone ride, okay? That's all I'm asking. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.